The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Join us at this particular point in time, and we are glad to tell you that the Port Harcourt Refining Company Limited, with a combined capacity of 210,000 barrels per day, is set to come alive. This is news reaching us at this moment. So reports say the refinery's flare indicated the commencement of oil refining, and the development comes months after the Minister of State for Petroleum, Senator Heineken Bopobi, said in August that the Port Harcourt refinery will commence operation in December 2023. Details will come your way subsequently. And still on refining, Nigeria's new $19 billion oil refinery has received 1 million barrels of oil from Shell International Trading and Shipping, its second crude cargo this month, as it steps up preparations to begin operations. The operations here are expected to turn Africa's largest oil producer into the net exporter of fuels, as the refinery expects more cargoes to be supplied by the state oil firm, the NNPC, this month. Nigeria's OPEC oil quota for next year is 1.5 million barrels per day, but the government says it plans to produce 1.8 million barrels to ensure supplies to the new private plant and state-owned refineries that are being upgraded, like that of the Port Harcourt that we've just seen. Moving on, let's now see how commodities are trading around the world. Oil prices fell on Thursday and were on track to snap a three-day winning streak as concerns over low demand following a surprise U.S. crude inventory build outweighed jitters over global trade disruptions. Due to tensions in the Middle East, Brent crude futures fell 22 cents to $79.48 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $74 a barrel, also down 22 cents. Both benchmarks ended higher on Wednesday for a third straight session as investors worried about trade disruptions given major maritime carriers chose to steer clear of the Red Sea route, with longer voyages increasing transport and insurance costs. Now, the federal government announces transport. It says yesterday announced 50% discount on luxury buses, transport fares, and free train services on interstate travels during the Yuletide. A Presidential Committee on Intervention on Public Transportation, led by Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, announced this during a briefing at the State House. The intervention is to cushion the usual costs of high transportation during the festivities. Will also run from Thursday, 21st December 2023 to January 4th, 2024.
Which the president is working hard to turn around. President Tinubu wants Nigerians to be able to travel within Nigeria to wherever they want to go to meet their loved ones without the extra burden of paying exorbitantly for interstate public transportation. It is in this wise that the President is announcing through us that beginning from tomorrow, that's the 21st of December, Nigerians willing to travel can board public transport via luxury buses at 50% discount of current cost, and all our train services on the routes the trains currently serve at zero cost to and fro on their travels this holiday season.
Now, moving on, the commitment by the Tinubu administration to create jobs and the growth of the micro, small and medium enterprises has taken another step with the inauguration of the corporate headquarters of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN. Vice President Kashim Shettima at the inauguration said this is part of measures to create an organized, effective business sector that will support Nigeria's sustainable economic growth agenda.
Is the very bedrock of our society, but also reflects the direction the government is headed and the velocity with which we do so. This moment solidifies His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's assurance to protect our enterprises. It resonates deeply within our economic revitalization plan. President Tinubu's focus on job creation, capital accessibility, economic growth, and poverty eradication form the very skeleton of our strategy to reinvigorate the economy, and inevitably this path demands tough decisions, yet ones essential.
This is a fantastic edifice, and what they've done is that they have different clusters where SMEs can walk in for training and even get certified. So we're really impressed with what the DG and his team are doing.
A small business can walk into this complex today, access loans to get raw materials, go into our shared facilities, process their products, and warehouse the product, and almost immediately get the product to be distributed as a result of all the MOUs that have come together and we have aligned to ease the lives of small businesses in Nigeria.
30 million naira is also being disbursed to nano business owners in the FCT, with each receiving 50,000 naira under the conditional grant scheme to formalize and support their businesses. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment said the program will be replicated in the 36 states of the Federation. As Christmas approaches, prices of goods and services have continued to rise without falling. Many families are devising life-changing ways to cut costs. Just last week, the National Bureau of Statistics revealed that inflation rose to 28.20% in November 2023, principally driven by the high cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages, which are the most popular consumables of the season. What does the situation mean for Nigerians, and how can they navigate the festive period? Our guest to answer these questions and more is financial analyst Abdul Mumin Ali. Abdul Mumin, thank you for joining us on Business Express this morning. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Nice to be here again.
Okay, great. Let's start with the fact that before we delve actually into the discussion, the Dangote refinery has gotten a second tranche of 1 million barrels crude cargo from the NNPC, as well as we hear that the Port Harcourt refinery has finally come alive. What does this mean for oil production? What does it mean for cost of transportation and possibly foodstuff?
What does it mean? First of all, when we have the Dangote refinery coming on stream and we have the Port Harcourt refinery coming on stream, what that tells us immediately is that we begin to spend less of our foreign exchange on the refining of crude and the importation of refined crude from abroad. Now, if most of our crude is now beginning to come from within the Port refineries and the Dangote refineries, there's going to be less pressure on IFX, and more effects will, as it will, be available to purchase other goods and services. And there's the part of inflation that is driven primarily from the cost end will reduce. So yes, it's good news for Nigeria. It's good news for the economy.
Okay, we are beginning to witness a rising prices of goods, and not just goods as well as services. Yes, it's been happening before this season, but now it is on the increase. Do you think this is just based on rising inflation in the last 3 decades, or is it intensified by the volume of shopping for the season?
When we discuss inflation in economics, inflation is typically either demand pull or cost push. In the case of this particular season, you will agree with me that at the Yuletide seasons, normally there's always a huge demand for goods and services. Many people want to travel back to the villages. There's the pressure of transportation. Prices typically spike to the roof. We have people from various parts of the country who typically go home in December. It's almost cultural, as it were, with them. So that drives up prices to it skyrockets prices. I'll give a typical example. I happened to buy a flight ticket for someone 2 weeks ago to Owerri, a flight ticket for December 27th, and it was 280 naira one way, 280,000 naira one way. Now, that's almost like an international ticket a couple of years back. So that's not the price of tickets in January. That's not the price of the same tickets of the same airline in January or February or any other period beyond December. So clearly, the season demand, the rising prices is seasonal. Having said that, that doesn't change the fact that we've had inflation rates of the area of over 13% for the last 20 years, but in recent times we've actually hit 28%. Clearly, the 28% in this circumstance that we're in now is driven by the reforms we're undergoing, the spike in oil prices and what have not. So yes, it's unusual times for Nigeria. Yes, there's a huge burden on the family in Nigeria. I mean, people have to change their ways, cut their means of livelihood, alter their behavior, as it were, to live within what is available to the family as disposable income today.
Okay, you just mentioned we're talking about airfares now going as high as 280,000 just from Abuja to Owerri. Then we just heard yesterday the federal government announced a discount of up to 50% for luxurious buses as well as free train rides. Would that impact the airfare? Will it get to reduce it if people have such alternative rather than just flying?
I don't think it will reduce the airfare, first of all, because, as it were, all those tickets are already fully booked. You are not going to get any ticket going eastwards, for instance, from Abuja today, up to maybe January 2nd or January 3rd. They're all completely sold out. So that doesn't change. That has already happened, as it were. The initiative by the government, though, is commendable because many people were going to have a challenge having to go back home with the kind of stratospheric prices we're hearing for normal bus travel. Now, the government is subsidizing that for this period. Kudos to the government. It allows for people to be able to connect to their loved ones, go for their marriages, meet their various annual obligations, as it were, and still be able to breathe, as it were, when they get back to their various spaces. So yes, a positive one from the government.
Okay, beyond this season, driving prices high because of high demand. How can we go beyond this season? How can we handle this issue of inflation? What are those things that needs to be done? What are those things that needs to be put in place aside the usual solution of increasing production?
It's not the usual solution. It's actually the only solution. We need to. I'll give a typical example. Our farms today. Whatever we produce in our farms, they don't get to the market. 40% of what we produce do not make it to the market. they rot away, either on the farms and what have you. Now, something as simple as tinkering, with that process will make a significant change to the supply of foodstuff. I'll give you a typical example. If 40% of the foodstuff coming from the farm gate rots before they get to the final users, if we can find a way to reduce this by just half, you will have increased food production or food supply by 30% by simply reducing wastages by half. So that's the point I'm making. We don't have we have very, very poor roads, transportation from the villages. So as a government, we should focus on making accesses to these areas where our foodstuffs are produced easy. If we have good access, good roads, good rails, as it were, connecting the hinterlands to the cities, as it were, right? Then you will see that the markets don't act.
Okay.
Markets are indifferent, really. If the supply exceeds, you can take care of the supply, then obviously you'll be able to manage, the price of goods and services. So that's where the challenge is. Infrastructurally, we have a challenge, as it were, today. Then, of course, again, if we take away all the costs that go into, refining products outside, and those costs now, go into more productive ventures like, importing fertilizers and inputs into the farms, then we are going to have a way, reduce the costs over time,
Okay, before I let you go, with this challenge that is here, which we have to deal with as an advisor, what financial choices should families and individuals be making at this particular point in time?
I did get that. When you say financial choices.
Okay, with some of these challenges, you've mentioned, which we have to deal with at this particular point in time, as an advisor, what financial choices would you advise for families and individuals at this particular point in time?
Families will have to live within their budgets, as it were. And in doing so, it's a question of looking for alternatives. In economics, we always have what we call choice. If you belong to the class that say, okay, my children have to school outside Nigeria, then maybe you need to start looking at the local schools in Nigeria. We have private universities, we have public universities. I never saw any employer that said, okay, the guy that came from United States or came from the UK, who's an accountant, is any different from the accountant that was schooled in Nigeria anyway. So yeah, we need to start looking at these hard choices. Many of us that say we need to send our children abroad today, all school in Nigeria anyway. So what's wrong with Nigerian schools? And if there's anything wrong with Nigerian schools, fix Nigerian schools, make those calls. Right? If you have brought up your family believing that okay, certain things are standard way to you and all that, there are alternatives there at any point in time. You don't have to. I grew up in a Nigeria where rice was not a staple, for instance. Today, people tell me rice is a staple, and I say rice is not even indigenous to us. Rice was at occasions when I grew up. Why do we have to import rice or whatever it is we're importing, these noodles or spaghetti? We grow our own food. Live within what we can produce, and we'll get by.
Eat what you produce and produce what you eat. Thank you so very much, Abdul Mumin, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nigeria's total external debt stock declined by $1.57 billion in the third quarter of 2023 from $43.16 billion to $41.59 billion as of September 30, 2023. Data from the third quarter public debt report published by the Debt Management Office shows that the reason for the decline is due to the redemption of Nigeria's $500 million Euro bonds and the first principal payment of $413.859 million, the IMF's $3.4 billion loan obtained during the 2020 COVID-19 period. The statement also noted that Nigeria's total public debt increased marginally from 87.38 trillion at the end of second quarter to 87.91 trillion naira as of September 30, 2023. This represents a rise of just 0.61% within 3 months. The DMO also stated that the domestic debt stock of the country increased by 1.80 trillion to 50.196 trillion at the end of third quarter. On the currency market, naira depreciates against the dollar to 854 naira 61 kobo to a dollar at the official market. So let's see the exchange rate at this moment. Nigerian equities retain a bull run as the market's all-share index appreciated by 1.29% on Wednesday. A total of 554.6 million shares and 7,910 deals, corresponding to a market value of 12.8 billion, were traded. Data shows 35% improvement in volume, 85% improvement in turnover, and 15% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization is 40.2 trillion naira. Guarantee Trust Holding recorded the highest volume of 89.5 million traded shares, followed by Access Holdings 59.7 million and Transcorp Nigeria 52 million. We're still talking stocks. Stocks across the globe are driven by falling interest rates and the Federal Reserve's dovish turn. Bosede Abel has more on the global market updates. Hello, Bosede. What's happening on the floor?
Good morning to you, Benny. Now, all eyes are on a gross domestic product reading from the U.S. Thursday, along with Friday's reading of the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, which is closely followed a gauge of inflation. Stock futures in the U.S. climbed Thursday morning after the recent market rally took a breather. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, S&P, and Nasdaq performance are below expectations this morning. European markets retreated on Thursday, tracking global declines overnight. DAX and CAC are unchanged, while FTSE is 1.02% positive at 7,715.68. For Asia, most markets fell Thursday after Wall Street dropped overnight. Nikkei and the Hang Seng Index closing negative, while Shanghai retained its gains at 0.57% at 2,918.71. Africa stocks followed their global counterparts like the South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Namibia's overall index on a negative territory. That's the global market this morning. I am Bosede Abel. Back to you, Benny.
Thank you, Bosede, for that update. And this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. Business Express returns tomorrow, Friday at 3 p.m. Keep a date with us.